Brown sugar, babe. I get high off of love, don't know how to behave.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the third season of Brown Sugar Talk. If you are new to the platform, welcome. It's always nice to have new people joining in. I recorded the first episode of the third season, I believe, back in February, March. And to be honest with you, I must admit that I did not anticipate it or I did not plan to have that many weeks, or should I say months apart between the first episode and the second episode. But as I said in the introduction episode, life happened, and this time it wasn't a burnout. I got lucky to be blessed with beautiful opportunities coming my way that I couldn't turn down. But also, I kind of got a slap on the face because with COVID restriction being lifted, I noticed that everyone is outside, everyone is back to business. So I found it really challenging to find guests that are available or that will even just get back to me. And because of that, it changed all my plan. And here I am now trying to navigate this new reality and trying to find an efficient way to be consistent again. But I still want it to be me, I still want to remain authentic. I still want to bring the guests that I want. I still want to create content and conversation of quality. So even if I'm genuinely happy for everyone being booked and blessed and outside, it's changing the dynamic of my platform. And if you know me, you know how organized I am. So when things do not work as planned, my Taurus self is challenged. But long story short, I'm going to stop talking about it because we're not here for that today. I'm really, really, really excited for today's conversation because, and another little parenthesis, we should not have this conversation only during Pride period. Okay, we should have them on a daily basis, closing the parenthesis. But today I invited Annie for this conversation, and we are kind of sharing name because in French we pronounce my name Annie. And I wanted to have him on my platform because I've been following him for quite some time now. And when I contacted him, sent a voice note, I thought that he will never got back to me. And when he did, I was excited like a child at a candy store because I knew how important he was. I knew that he will move many people, and this is the kind of energy and people that I want in my platform. And Pride Month is coming to an end right now, and if you are not aware of Pride Month, it's a month where we get to celebrate and embrace and amplify and LGBTQ2 plus communities. And even if cultural acceptance has grown over the past decade, I feel that BIPOC LGBTQ2 plus members still experience a lot of discrimination. And when you have the intersection of being black and transgender, for example, you reach another level of discrimination that can be sometimes really dangerous and harmful. So we're going to have Annie with us today, who is an incredible black queer transgender man, world traveler, who's found like his people and joy and his community through traveling. And we are going to take a deeper dive, on what it is to be a black transgender man, but also the challenges, the joy, and how we can do better. So, Annie, welcome to Brown Sugar Talk.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. How are you doing?
I am I'm feeling light right now.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm loving this. I'm loving this. Okay, so we're going to right jump into the conversation, and since I haven't done that for quite some time, here I am with my nut as usual. So, as I was saying, we're closing up Pride Month, and this one was a huge celebration because it was actually the first one, the first year since the lockdown of the pandemic and also the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement. So, I would love to ask you, have you seen anything change or improvement to help center BIPOC, LGBTQ2 plus voices? And also, how have you seen the evolution of the involvement of brands within Pride, and how does that make you feel? Because this is a little conversation that we had during our intro call, and we need to bring this up.
Definitely. So, I mean, that's a very encompassing question, but I will start to say so I'm currently located in Mexico City, Mexico. And I actually went to Pride this past Saturday. And it was truly beautiful. I plan on sharing some of the footage I got out there, but there was, I'm guessing, like hundreds of thousands of people out there just celebrating being in space and being in community. I didn't spend a lot of my time in the actual parade. I actually spent a big part of it. Also, before we start, y'all are getting the true, and you'll hear the woman trying to hear the sound of like lava, Lord. I apologize in advance. But with that being said, I think it was really beautiful to see folks being able to gather again because I know that since the pandemic, folks have found a way. I know I have found a way to find community virtually, but to be able to find that people celebrating in person was also beautiful, but also safely too. Because out here in Mexico, like people still actively wear masks and people are actively like still upholding some aspects of COVID safety that we don't necessarily have in the States as of now. So I think that was beautiful. So as far as changes or improvements, as far as centering BIPOC, LGBTQ voices, I think, and this maybe will tie into like the I feel like since Black Lives Matter, like a lot of people have been like, okay, all right, we realize like things are not right, like something is off, like things need to be changed, whatever case may be. And I also tell people, I think the reason why the murders that we experienced during the pandemic, stuff like that, were so prominent is because it was during the pandemic. For the first time in a very long time, we were forced to sit still. We were forced to sit in what it felt like to see these things, and we were forced to actually sit with it. We weren't like, oh my gosh, this is happening on news. I gotta get back to work. Oh, this is happening on here. I have to drive here. I have to go here. We were in the house forced to sit in it. And so I feel like that caused people to really see things that they probably were very much easy to put to the side for a long time. With that being said, I think there's a lot of room to improve. I think for me, when I think of liberation, when I think of change, when I think of revolution, whatever you want to call it, of changing of our current experiences, I think real change comes from centering the most marginalized in any pursuits that we're going through. So if what I'm trying to pursue is like what change looks like, if this isn't benefiting for example, maybe an indigenous, black, disabled, trans woman, then is it really for everyone? So I think what we can be done is by looking at the LGBT community and how expansive it is. I think we can see that there's an opportunity to center our most marginalized that can actually lead to actual change for everyone. With that being said, I think that also with your question about brands and things like that, um, it's it's kind of sad, it really does break my heart that I feel like as a creator, people say there's only, as a black queer creator, there's only 2 months that I really get to shine, that I get to really be and out there. And the funny thing is like this month, I really didn't really get to take advantage of this month because I had so many personal things happening. I had to relocate. I had some personal issues. So with all that being said, I really want to push the narrative. Like, I'm going to be sending out messages to brands like, okay, Pride Month's over. Is your advocacy performative, or is your advocacy actual advocacy? Are you just uplifting and putting flags and things up, this involving in rainbow capitalism during June? Or are you actually with it where all your content is intersectional, where it's encompassing voices of all identities? So I think there's always room for improvement. Um, I think for me, it's felt, I guess there's some benefit because I think, I feel like I see more of it, but I feel like I also acknowledge that a lot of it is from the lens of capitalism. The people just know that this will make money. And that's also the sad part. So let me know if I answered all the questions, and yeah.
No, yes, you did. And if you are watching this and you are not aware of what is going on with brand, just do a little bit of homework. Check out, I will say Target, I will say Burger King, which other brand. I feel that they have been really clumsy in the message that they are putting out there, the way they are marketing it, the way they are just using it, and I found it so disrespectful in addition of being clumsy. And yeah, I agree with you. It's just a way for them to make more money, and they should do better. They should do and know better. When you see all the things that happened these past 2 years, I would have expected better for them. And I don't know who is head of marketing in this brand, but
Let me
they need to
let me
be
just say that
fired.
real quick.
Or they
That's the
need,
thing. That's how you
right?
know. You can very much see who is in charge of marketing or branding or whatever. I can see very clearly when I see what you're putting out there that there's no one that is in the LGBT community, there's no one black, or there's no one that is actually able to be in a space, because there are people sometimes in those positions, but they're not actually given the agency or the actual access to make these things that they have ideas about into fruition. They're like, okay, what do you think? Okay, that's nice. We're going to go with the burger with the two different sides of it, instead of, oh, wow, maybe we should do something that can actually tangibly help people. So it's like, you're telling on yourself. You really are.
Exactly, I agree, and that's the issue, unfortunately, in many companies, right? There is this lack of diversity and representation at a higher level. And because of this lack of representation, guess what? When you are going to create something and try to reach out to your target audience, it's not going to work out because you do not have this representation, so they cannot relate and they cannot understand your message. Whereas if you were having a diverse team, the diverse team would have told you, are you okay? Because what you're doing right now it's not right. It doesn't work. This is how you should reach out to and how you should create content and develop products to my people, to my community. But if there is no diversity, this is what happened, and now this is on them, and it will take some time, but I really hope that they will learn from it and do better in the future, because even someone like I see myself as an ally, it was really cringy. Like to watch, I was actually getting upset at it. So yeah, it's okay. We will stop here because we already gave them a lot of time and they do not deserve to have all these minutes discussing and talking about them. My other question, just to learn a little bit more about you, because obviously when I found out about you is that when I was looking for content for traveling, and I would love to know when and why did you decided to start traveling, and what would you say to anyone scared about it? I'm asking that because I know from a fact that, for example, is not on the black or even BIPOC culture to travel. We've been raised in a way where it is work hard, and if you get money, you save the money because we never know what is going to happen in life, and you need to help and support family whenever family needs. but we never talked about traveling. Like you rarely see black people or BIPOC people traveling. It's just happening recently. But yeah, what would you say to anyone who's scared, and how did it start? How did you develop that love for
I love
traveling?
this question because, yeah, for many reasons. So, when and why did I start traveling? So, the first time I ever, internationally speaking, the first time I ever left the United States was May of 2019, and that's when I studied abroad. I studied abroad in Chiang Mai, Thailand. I was there for 3 months, and it was an amazing experience. But even then, I feel like I'm capable of more than I think I am from that experience, and this is why. So, when I was in college, I was working anywhere from 2 to 3 jobs at a time. I was in extracurriculars. I was trying to just be, because at that time I was going to go to law school. I was trying to do all these things so I could be the best person possible. When this intersected with studying abroad, I was like, how am I going to make this work? I don't have enough money. I'm applying to grants. So it's like I was lacking in time. I was lacking in resources. I was lacking in money, all these different things. But somehow I figured it out. And with the support of my community and just the sure willpower of like sitting up all late at night, I was able to go study abroad. But even then, didn't have the money or the funds to go with the group trip. So I had to go 5 days early by myself to a foreign country, and I was like, okay, I'm here. And then later met up with my group. With all that being said, when we talk about fear and all these different things, when I then went to decide I wanted to move abroad, I wanted to leave the United States. This was September of 2020. This was some people consider one of the heights of the pandemic. This was a time that was like a lot of uncertainty. A lot of people had a lot of feelings about what is the world going to look like? How is this going to be shaped? So on and so forth. With that being said, I felt like, and I tell people, and I think a lot of people don't like this answer, but my why is always most likely going to be my intuition. Something told me, whether you want to call it your gut, your intuition, that inner voice, that little voice, whatever it is, something told me. I remember I woke up, and I remember this day very clearly. I woke up and something just kept saying, get out, get out, get out, get out. And to this day, I don't know what it was, but it was just like, okay. And at first I wanted to go back to Thailand. With all that being said, is that I think for me, when we talk about being scared and the fear piece of it, I think it was two things. Number one, I think I wanted to believe a lot more into the intuition I had than the fear that I had. Don't get me wrong, I was terrified of getting on a plane by myself during a pandemic, all these different things. Logistically, people are like, why would you ever do that? But to me, it made sense because something told me it didn't make sense. It told me it made sense. Um, and so I tell people that's the first part. The second part is you have to get real comfortable with fear. We have to realize what actually is our fear. Our fear is there to keep us safe. It wants to protect us. It wants to be like, this may be scary. This may not be safe. Don't do this. But I think when we start to have a better relationship, and this is something I help with my clients, because I help people, I do mindset coaching, and when people that want to move abroad, a big thing is the fear. The fear of I'm going to get there and I'm not going to know what to do. I'm not going to make any friends. I'm not going to have any community, or I'm going to run out of money, and all of these things are very valid. But the thing is like, what is your relation to these things? How can we learn to have some grace with them? How can we learn to be like, you know what? I know you're here to protect me. What can we do to put things in place to kind of like lay those things at bay a little bit more? So I would say, well, number one, book a consultation with me. So, because I can definitely help you if you're scared and working through that. But also, I tell people a lot of times, and this is on my site, people say, how do you move through the fear? First, give it some grace. Give it some love. Realize where it's coming from. Next, what are you fearful of? Get very clear about what those things are. Write them down tangibly. One of the things I was scared of. I was scared as I was getting to a foreign country. I was getting scammed. My money was going to be gone. I was going to not have any resources. So what did I do? I said, you know what? I'm going to leave. I left $1,000 with a family member. I was like, this is this amount of money at any given time. I can get a flight from Latin America to wherever I want to go in the United States. I'm leaving with a family member I trust. I know I can call anytime, any day. So it's like, I have nothing. Please either book me a flight or send me this money so I can book a flight and get the heck out. Let me not curse. And like these are very tangible things you can put into place. So it's like, okay, this feels a little bit more possible. So I would say that about being scared, and I definitely agree. Like I think that's part of the reason why I tell my story and I'm visible on platforms is because I want people to know that like black queer people do travel, black trans people do travel. Are there things we have to consider? Yes, but we do, and we should, and we deserve to.
Thank you so much, actually, for ending on that note because it goes well with my next question. Because I feel that you are a black queer person traveling, and because of that, I will say thanks to that, you have some joy, experiencing some joy, some different experiences. But because of that, you are also experiencing some challenges that are that we need to consider and we need to be aware of. So what are these challenges and what are some of the joy as well? Because my platform is all about keeping it real, but also sharing some positivity with not scaring people off, But I do want you to share these challenges with us because sometimes a lot of people are not aware of how privileged they are, you know? As a black woman, I did notice some challenges while traveling. People will notice me. People will treat me differently, you know? But as a black queer man, it's also different because I feel that for you, you literally have
So just to
two to
clarify,
three
as a
different
traveler, as a
intersections.
creator,
So
or
I would
both.
love you to share that with us.
Okay, okay. So I would say some of the challenges
Let's
as a
say both.
black
Let's say
queer
both.
traveler
Yes.
specifically are that I sometimes have to think about things, I have to plan for things that I think a lot of people don't even have to think about. Um, and also, I want people to recognize there's other things that we have to talk about when we're talking about travel. Is it can be like some things like getting through TSA. Some people don't know this, but a lot of the monitors or things that we go through are very programmed for normative bodies. As a trans person, if someone will read me as a certain gender, let's say I have medically transitioned or whatever the case may be, that may flag it, might flag the scanner. Then I have to be searched. And then there's that next extra step. And then what if you're getting a TSA agent that's not the most inclusive, that is like going to use your previous name, that's going to not be respectful, whatever the case may be, or ask invasive questions. These are things that a lot of people don't have to think about. For me, it's the sometimes it can be like thinking about those things as I consider and navigate my ideas of like how I want my medical transition to look like. But also it's things like, is this place safe? So doing research of like having to first, is this a safe place for black people? Is this place safe for queer people? Because there's not a lot of content that intersects the two. I think there's things being put out more recently and that there's change happening, but it's like that's a whole nother identity I have to like figure out like, okay, yeah, this is safe for black people because a lot of we all know black people. We can't travel everywhere. Some places not safe for black people to go to. What does that look for a black queer person? What does that look for a black queer trans person? And I think that's a whole nother thing as well. As a content creator, as a content creator specifically, it's just a lot of things of realizing. I think from the beginning, I wanted my content to be for everyone. I wanted my story, I wanted everyone to hear my story. I wanted everyone to resonate with something I was saying. But I think for me, I feel like I find the most authenticity and the most alignment in my content when I realize this is not for everyone. Like, and that even comes to like the family. There's family like, oh, well, you posted this and I don't know how you feel about it. And it's like, this isn't for you. Like who my content is for, who I'm talking to is going to be who it's for. And whether that is a black queer person that wants to travel or also like, I also make it very clear, like why I think education is important, my priority in the content I'm making isn't to educate non-queer or non-trans folks. Because at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of that. There's people doing that. I want to share my experiences. I want to show you a lens through my life of what is it like for you as holding these same identities. What would it be like for you to walk into the same country? What are you going to experience? How are you going to feel? What are things that you should be aware of? And that's kind of where I'm at trying to point my content. But it's hard because it's like in the world of social media, everything's about numbers. Everything's about, okay, how far did this go? Or how many people like this? But it's like, if my content is for everyone, I'm not going to get all those likes and things like that. So there's that. As far as the joys, I think there's a lot. The joy outweighs the challenges in a lot of ways. I think for me, less traveling, but moving abroad and leaving the United States and living in another country has offered me the opportunity to get to know myself more, to have more space, to have more capacity, to have more energy to pour into myself. I've become a lot more grounded in who I am. I think traveling also gives us an opportunity to step outside our comfort zone, which also sometimes gives us the courage to step outside our comfort zones in other ways, whether that's in healing, whether that's in the people we talk to. Learning a new language has been important in that as well. I like to just say that I think moving abroad has given me a lot more access to myself, which has given me a lot more access to show up into the world authentically and more intentionally. I see the relationships I have with people a lot more deepened and a lot more beautiful and what I've always wanted, but that's because I've been able to deepen my connection to myself, and I've been able to, I don't know, I guess forge a life that is able to reflect the things I really care about, because money and all these things are important, and if you want to make money, the States is great, but I care about relationships. I care about connection. I care about growth. I care about healing. And I think traveling has given me a gateway to access those things a lot more.
Ah, I'm just going to clap for all the things that you just said right now because I feel that you are touching a lot of different points, and I got goosebumps, chills on my arms when you were talking about what traveling provide you, because I do feel the same. I do believe that when you travel, you find yourself. It's just something when obviously when you do the work and you're allowing yourself to open up and embrace and really live fully this adventure and getting out your comfort zone and figuring out really what makes you happy, who you are as a human, what does your soul need, and disconnect it from social media. Of course, you will create some content later with people, but just being able to live in the moment and being like, what do I feel right now? How is that specific moment makes me feel? And getting to learn a new culture, a new language, interact with people, and seeing how people who have sometimes nothing are the happiest, you know? And I know as you said, yes, if you want money, go to the States, you know? But the thing is, we all have a different definition of success. For some people, because of society expectation, it will be making a specific salary, like the 6 figures and plus, owning a house or an apartment, and being married with kids. And if you don't have this trio, you're seen as a failure, or you're seen as being late, or we're asking you, what is wrong with you? What is going on? This is something that I'm experiencing and that I'm dealing with. But guess what? Some people have another definition of success. Creators, artists, and other people. It's just the fact that it's more simple things, it's more artistry, it's more being outside, it's more connection, relationship. having this connection to energy, to soul. And I love you for sharing that, because I hope that people will stop staying on the surface level and do whatever the society taught us to do, and dive deeper and trying to figure it out through travel, who they really are. For the challenges, I was laughing a little bit when you started talking about, yes, like at the beginning it was for everyone, but then social media and this and that. And I hear you so much, because my platform, when I first started, same as you, I said it's for everyone. I'm welcoming everyone, you know? But it's challenging, because sometimes you will create some content and you will see some people not being comfortable, not understanding why you created this content, and then criticizing it. But it's not for you. If you're not comfortable, if you're not liking it, why are you here? Go follow someone else. Go find the content where you needed to have it. But this is me. This is what I'm doing. If it doesn't work for you, too bad, but it's okay. So don't let social media and the matrix change you and what you want to do, because honestly, I gave up on them. I'm tired right now. I'm losing followers every day. I'm like, okay, bye. Nice meeting you. Even if I did not meet you, I just at this point, with all these updates, algorithm, I'm just done. I'm gonna keep doing me, but yeah, keep doing you. But I love one of the things that you shared, and I know I'm getting off topic. This is when I get too excited. When I get to talk to a guest again, I'm digressing. I swear I will go back to my question soon. But you posted something about the places where you felt safe traveling. And for me, this is, for example, like content that is super high quality for the LGBTQ2 plus communities, but for Black people, for Black and queer, Black and transgender. And I loved it. And we need that kind of content. So keep doing you, please. Keep doing you. Okay, I go back to my question. Sorry, everyone. So my next question is, you have just started your online community in September 2020, and you mentioned that you are decolonizing how you see yourself. Can you explain further and detail how travel has helped you find your true self? I feel that right now you just explain it. If you want to add something further,
Yes, I can
you
definitely
can,
speak
but
to
otherwise I
that.
can jump to the other question.
So when I talk about
So,
decolonizing how I see my, it truly is decolonizing. When I talk about decolonizing how I see
this is a
myself,
hard word.
this is from the awareness I have gained as far as realizing that who I am and the environment I've grown up in, as far as the U.S. and the systems of oppression that we are navigating within, how they have shaped the way I see myself. Growing up, I thought like my dark skin was ugly. Growing up, I thought that having like being a bit bigger was considered, like all these different things. And I think it's also deeper as far as like me asking, because I think, let me not get on the tangent. I feel like one thing that we can really offer ourselves is that can really lead to a lot of change and expansion and authenticity is curiosity. Where did this come from? Why do I believe this? What made me, what told me? And it's like, okay, if I take like, for example, having dark skin was ugly. Who told me this? And realizing like, okay, society, whatever, if these are the things I'm getting my information from, is this something I actually want to align with? Is this a space where I want to find my worth and my value? The answer is no. Then let's figure out how we can change that message. So I think getting out of an environment where there's an expectation to show up a certain way or be a certain way, whatever the case may be, definitely helped. Traveling has given me the opportunity to, I think, to see myself in more light. I feel like traveling has given me the opportunity to see myself in more light. It's helped me to digress from seeing my worth connected to my productivity, which I think can be a game changer as well. Um, I think it's helped me just slow down. I think when we slow down, we ask questions. When we are curious about these like different things, who am I? How do I want to show up in the world? What do I care about? What do I not care? And I really be willing and be, I guess, almost brave enough to know what the answers are. I think that's when we open up so much more. So I think it's just, I think when we leave, like leaving the U.S., we get into a new environment where like it's different countries. Like, yeah, I'm in one of the biggest cities in America, in what we consider the Americas. But I tell you, the pace of life is so much slower. Like, and the values people hold. Like, yes, people care about making money and supporting their families, but you'll also find people like, hey, come down, sit down with me, have a beer, let's have a talk. That's not happening in the States. Like, there's always something you have to do after this, after this, after that. So slowing down, I think, has helped me decolonize the way I see myself, asking questions, being curious, and ultimately just when I ask those questions, being willing to make changes as to how I'm currently doing things to align with what I know now. Because I think it's important that there's a lot of times I'll ask myself this every few months, is what I'm doing right now aligning me to where I want to be or where I want to go or who I want to be? And if the answer is no, am I going to have the courage to make changes or to make shifts that will actually align to that path? So yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. And as a music junkie, I think that I found your anthem. You need to listen to the song Slow Down by Damian Marley and Her. The lyrics, it's slow down, girl, let me love you. Slow down, let me get to know you. And I love this song, and I think that it's a perfect fit
I just
for
wrote it
you.
down, so I'm going to
Listen
be
to
listening
it,
to it. I just wrote it down.
and yeah, it's giving me that vibe right now. Yay! Okay, we're almost done. We are only already 3 questions left. So my next question. And now we're getting to the ugly part. The ugly part. So the United States in particular has had over 100 plus anti-transgender legislation bills across numerous states. With your travel and experiences, what issues are trans people facing and what areas are
You sent me
most
these questions
concerning
before,
for the
but
Black
still this
trans
question
community?
like dang. What issues are trans people facing? I think what I want to name in this question is just, I think a lot of people don't realize that trans people are still facing actual violence on a daily basis. Like, I think people see the bills and they see the laws and things like that, but I don't think a lot of times people see the actual impact that these things have. An anti-trans law or legislation going into place doesn't just mean like, okay, this is a legal barrier for this person, because that is very real. But also, what is this telling people about trans people? What is this telling people about the trans people in their lives and their experiences? And how is this impacting how people interact with trans people? Trans people on a daily basis. There's still trans women, specific Black trans women, that are being killed at alarming rates. And sometimes that's just because someone had a little, like, someone just decided that your life doesn't matter. That my comfort of not having you exist in the same space as me is more important than your life. Or whatever the case, there's a plethora of depth to it. So I just want people to understand that this isn't just about the laws and the legislation. This is about actual people's lives. This is about people actually being able to not only like survive, like I'm pretty sure like there's plenty of statistics out there of the life expectancy of Black trans women is alarmingly low. And that's just not a coincidence. And we have so many facets from the medical, we have like the medical industry, not industry, I don't like calling it. I would call it the the medical complex, and we have like the government, and we have all these different things and all these different facets that are actively telling trans people you should not be here, or telling them that your life doesn't matter, what your needs don't matter. And I just think as a traveler, I'm thankful that I've been able to be out of this environment, because something I truly believe in, and a quote I will always stand by, is you cannot heal in the same environment that you got sick. With that being said, I think that can be many things, whether that's a specific house, that's a specific city, a specific state. For me, I need to get out of the United States. And my healing, I think, has given me the access to think about these things, as far as like, number one, prioritizing my healing as a Black trans person myself, so that I can make it to the day that I guess more folks realize that these things need to change. But also that I know that the best things that I produce, or the best things that I bring into this world, are going to come from my abundance. They're going to come from my healing. They're going to come from my overflow. I spent a lot of times growing up pouring from a half cup, an empty cup, whatever the case may be. When I'm able actually to experience life that it feels overflowing, the things that come from that overflow are going to be so much more nourishing and intentional and beautiful and authentic. So I think that's one thing traveling has taught me as far as that. And I think like I said, the areas of concern is, I think people don't realize that these things are life or death at times, that this isn't just a law, that this is truly people's livelihoods that are being affected, whether that's through suicide, active violence, whatever the case may be.
Thank you so much for sharing. I truly appreciate it, because this is always a tricky question to answer. And I do believe that people do not realize, because they are not affected by it. And there is also the media not covering most of it. And now that everything also is back to being open, they are covering even less of these murders. And it's really affecting. And you're talking also about having an impact on people's lives. There is something that happened last Friday that has also an impact on people's lives. So if you are not aware of it, this past Friday, so I think it was June 24 or something like that, the US Supreme Court overturned the abortion right. And there's been a lot of conversation around the impact on cisgender women, which is, one more time, society, expectation, normal. Obviously, you will go to straight, woman. But actually, that ban has also an impact, I believe, on LGBTQ2 plus communities. And I would love you to tell us a little bit more, what is the impact and what could it be now and in the future, because I do believe that it affects the community, and even more, like, for example, the visible minorities, because they could harm themselves with this new.
So I would like to say that
So
despite
I
I
will
do have
let
degrees
you
in criminal justice and
share
political
more
science,
about
but
it.
I am not on here as an expert of any type of law or the justice system or anything like that. What I will say is, I think what's lacking a lot, I like to say disappointing but not surprised, but there's a lot of language lacking the full spectrum of the issue and who it truly affects. When we talk about abortion and things like that, cisgender women are usually centered in that. I would even say white cisgender women have been centered a lot in the communication and the talk about things like their voices have been more centered. But we need to kind of broaden that and realize that it's not just an issue for cisgender women. Yes, it is, but it's an issue for all people that have uteruses. It's an issue for trans men. It's an issue for some trans men, for some non-binary people, for some gender non-conforming people, for some intersex people. This is not just an issue of one specific identity. And I think that even just the expansion of the language around it could also help people to understand just truly how impactful this is and how many people are really being affected by it. Um, yeah, I think it's that, and also I think that we have to remember that at the end of the day, like this will always affect our most vulnerable the most. Whenever we make any types of shifts in legislation or laws or amendments, whatever the case may be, it's going to affect our most marginalized the most. So there are going to be people, like, by them overturning is not saying that we are getting rid of abortions, you're getting rid of safe abortions, you're getting rid of the opportunity for people that may need abortion to not have one in a safe environment or an accessible environment. Because I think there will always be people that maybe have money or access to resources that will be able to access that safe abortion. But what about the people that barely were able to access it when it was still a thing, that were waiting to get into Planned Parenthood, whatever the case may be? I just want people to realize the depth, the expansion, and the full spectrum of this issue, and that it impacts a lot more people than what we're being told. And I think by that understanding of things, we're able to realize that, okay, like, this is an issue that everyone needs to care about. And also some cis men need to shut up and to support about as well. So that's my thing.
I agree. Thank you so much for sharing. I do believe that for the people who do not have access to money, for example, what I'm afraid of is that they will harm themselves trying to get rid of the baby on their own, and doing something that is not safe at all, and then they might lose their life. And this is really scary and upsetting and just crazy to feel that in 2022 we are moving backwards like that. Like, where are we going? Where are we going? And I'm just praying that it will not have an effect on other laws and other countries following other states, because we never know what to expect nowadays. We never know what to expect. But let's finish on a positive note, and then I'm seeing some question in the chat, so I will ask you some question. I will try to see the one that you haven't covered yet. But the last question is, can you share with people some tangible way, some tangible things to do to support your community in a real way? Or any way to show allyship during Pride, especially for BIPOC
Definitely, there's
LGBTQ plus
always ways
communities?
to support. So I'll say a couple things. I would say I think folks need to realize and seek out to support folks of intersectional identities. Yes, it's important to support all LGBT plus communities, but what would it look like to put more effort or put more support into supporting Black LGBT folks, Black disabled LGBT queer folks, or, like, all these different intersectionalities? Because I think that's where we truly see, I think, a better and a deeper representation of what we face. Because what I face as a Black queer trans man and what maybe a white non-binary person may face will be very different experiences. Me and that white binary person may experience a lot of the same things because we share being queer or being having identity outside of being cis. But what does it look like to also understand how that intersects with race and other things? Other thing I would say is, this may be controversial, but I will say that there are people that are struggling right now, that are BIPOC, that are LGBT. I truly believe donating and pouring into mutual aid funds. So we're looking out and trying to find collectives or mutual aid organization, like, not mutual aid posts or things that people are struggling to donate to them. I'm not saying that. I personally think that a lot of times we get too caught up in donating to like these big organizations, these big charities, but we also have to realize a lot of that money is going to the upkeep of that organization, which means less is going to the actual person to help them whatever they need help with. So you will find tons of posts of people like, I need help with my rent. I need help with this. Share those posts, donate to them, share them, send them to the people that you know. Like whether it's $10, but if you have 5 community people your community with, that person may have enough money to eat that day, you know? And I think also just checking in with folks. And if you can't like support someone monetarily, what are ways that you can support this person's humanity? If you are in community with a person that is Black and queer, maybe that doesn't mean you can't afford right now to send them money or whatever, but what is something that you can take off their plate? Like, hey, like, I know that you're been trying to work and you're also sick or whatever the case may be. Maybe I can help you proofread this, or I can, if you send them the money for your groceries, let me go get them for you. Or like just really showing actual support for people and their humanity and realizing that we are all struggling right now, but think about what that looks like when you have so many other identities on top of those to navigate at the same time. And what can you do to show up for that person and their humanity?
I love these pieces of advice. Honestly, thank you so much. It's all about being genuine and empathetic. I never know how to pronounce this word properly, but you get me. And selfless. I love it. Thank you so much. So we're done with my question, but I'm seeing some question in the chat, and thank you so much for the question in the chat. I'm gonna ask you 2 of them. So first of all, one that is a quick one. I'm sure I shouldn't say I'm sure because maybe you might have a hard time answering this one. But what's your favorite place
The
you've been
favorite
to?
place my favorite place that
Uh
I've been
oh,
to. I have to say Thailand. And to be transparent, when I went to Thailand, I stayed abroad, I was not out. Um, and when I say out, I know this is a very weird term, but people like I was not like openly queer. I was not openly trans. Arguably, I didn't even have the privilege or the privy to know these intricate parts of my identity at that time. But I really love Thailand. As far as since I've been out, I feel like I really love also Mexico City. This is where I am now. Um, Very two different places, but when I was in Thailand, I think there's just a certain level of peace and a level of kindness and love that you just find there. That's just kind of there. I'm trying to figure out what it is. I'm actually hoping to um, go back to Thailand very soon. So keep connected with me on my platforms to see how that goes. But yeah, I can't pick one. Thailand, Mexico City, and the other one I talk about a lot is Cali, Colombia, because the culture, the people, it's just truly a beautiful place. Nothing like I've ever been to any other place. Sorry, I couldn't give one, but there you go.
Thank you so much for sharing. Thailand and Colombia are definitely on my to-go list, so I will eat you up for the detail. Another question that I love, and I'm sorry if I look weird right now because I am not wearing my glasses, so I'm going to try to read it without, being on your face, is as a queer traveler, how do you navigate experiencing new cultures and traveling with countries that presently don't have complete queer rights to make you feel the safest you could be? This is
I
a
think there's a lot of
really
pieces to this, and
great
actually,
question.
in
Thank
a
you so
video
much
I
for
have on my
asking this
YouTube
one.
channel, on Amuse Adventures, a friend of mine, Mikkel, who's also a Black queer traveler, we talked about this a little bit. Because it's multi-layered. Because I think when you're talking about these things, you have to talk about there's different expressions in different ways queerness shows up. Because there's a ooh, someone's dog is not happy. It's been actually pretty quiet. Hold on, I'm realizing that. But there's things like passing privilege. There's things like realities of every single queer person's experience is not going to be the same. The way I navigate it, it just depends on the day. I think there's so many things. This person mentioned culture. There's also the language. Like, there's some languages that are very binary. Like in the United States, in English, in English, we are, using they, them as more of a singular term, as a singular pronoun. We are expanding language to kind of encompass more of the spectrum of gender and things like that. But that's not the case for a lot of places. And even if it is, for example, in Spanish, like there are people that use things like instead of amigos, it's amigues, which is more encompassing, taking away the masculinity assumption when using the word. But even that's a little bit more, that's even controversial because there's some older people that are used to the language a certain way. There's so many pieces, there's so many things to it. So I feel like I try to find a line between my safety and respecting the culture and the place that I'm in. As far as laws and things like that, or like have like rights and things like that, to my knowledge, I haven't been anywhere that I feel like there was a law that specifically like banned me from being who I am in that specific place. I know there are places on this earth that like literally the idea of just the existence of queer or trans people is illegal. I have not been to a place like that yet, to my knowledge. But with that being said, I think that is doing our research. I think that is my goal. I think is to create some type of directory or some type of space where folks can talk about their experiences that are Black and queer, so that there's a little less research of like, okay, this place is safe for Black people, but it's not safe for queer people, or vice versa. So I think I navigate it by doing my research, also trying to find community wherever I go and asking folks about their experiences and things like that, but also being willing to be as equally advocating for my safety and my autonomy, but also advocating that I am doing the best I can to respect wherever place I am, respect the cultures as much as possible. And that line sometimes is hard, but I try to find the best way to walk in.
I love that. Thank you so much. And I feel that that was the perfect question to conclude this beautiful conversation. So before we wrap it up, I want to remind everyone, about the Brown Sugar Talk Challenge. So if you're new to the platform, this is a challenge where I invite the audience, the listeners, to support an organization that I will talk to you about in a few seconds. By donating $5, nominating 5 friends to do the same. You can nominate them on social media if you have a heavy social media user, and tagging them or sending them a text message, a voice note, whatever you prefer, asking them to donate as well $5. And the organization that I got to know thanks to Amy, it's called Black Trans Fund. And so it's a New York City-based national fund seeking to change culture by shifting the narrative about Black trans community toward joy and resilience. And I will make sure to insert the link on YouTube, on Spotify. It is also on my Instagram. And that's about it. Thank you so much, Amy, for being part of this conversation. It was an honor to have you. It was an honor to wrap up Pride Month with you. I want everyone to follow you on social media, Amy's Adventures. So it's MIS_adventures with an S at the end. The content is incredible. And that's about it. Do you have any final word for us?
Yes, first and foremost, I want to thank you, Amy, for having me on your platform. Like I said, your message or the message you sent me about wanting to connect and collaborate was so thoughtful and intentional. So I'm really thankful to be a part of this project and to have shared some pieces of my story. And yeah, thank you to everyone that's listening. Please feel connected with me on YouTube and or Instagram, where I talk about my journey and my experiences as a Black queer traveler. And I just have a lot of gratitude that there are spaces like this exist and that we're able to be in community in this way. So thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's an honor one more time.